Hello, 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 everyone. We are just about to get started. Thank you so much for joining us as you get connected for today's session on using AI for impact. It's an exciting
Hello,
topic.
everyone.
Yes, exciting topic. We have Jazzmine here. Now, just for some context, Jazzmine and I have done some sessions together already in person, kind of more in-depth training on using AI for impact. And we're excited to host this one and allow you to answer some of your questions and just get kind of an entry level overview on all of this, which is really exciting. Then, of course, we do also offer an in-depth training on this, which I'll share a little bit more about later. But as we get started, I'm just going to take us through these slides here and let some people in. All
Mhm.
right, so we start off with a land acknowledgement. No matter where you're joining from, we acknowledge the indigenous peoples of all the lands that we're on today. While we meet here on a virtual platform, we acknowledge the importance of the lands that we all call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. So, quickly, for those of you who are joining for the first time or don't know, Good Growth Company is an upskilling company for nonprofit organizations and purpose-driven businesses that are looking to invest in their people and help scale their mission. My name is Daniel. If you haven't met me yet, I'm the founder of Good Growth Company and the host of this series. We're here to help you boost your social impact and level up your team with our training and consulting. And with that, I'm going to jump in to introduce today's speaker, today's workshop facilitator, who is Jazzmine Raine. As I mentioned before, Jazzmine and I have collaborated on several projects. She's awesome, very, very talented and skilled, especially in the AI space, but more specifically on how to use AI for social impact. We've already seen some incredible use cases with some of the nonprofits that we've worked with, and I'm really excited for you on the call today to get some of the training. So, Jazzmine, welcome, and I will turn it over to you to do your intro.
Hello, everyone. I am a very proud Canadian Caribbean girl, but I'm coming at you today from South India. I actually just moved my family here for the winter because as a Caribbean girl, do not like the winter. So I'm really excited to come at you from the other side of the world and share something that I think is so universally fascinating right now, especially because I think what's so important, I want to mention that no one is an AI expert. This is a space where we are constantly learning. Every single day, there's something new. I was just attending the fundraising AI conference earlier, actually last week, and it was so fascinating to be in a room with so many nonprofit and social impact leaders. And I'm excited to also bring some fun kind of downloads and trends that I saw also among the community there that I think would be really helpful for today. And if you're looking to dive a little bit deeper and get your hands dirty with building some AI tools, Daniel and I would be so honored to support you with that going into October, especially giving season is a great time to um, build some extra capacity for yourself, and AI tools can absolutely help you with that. And I'm going to dive a little bit deeper today. A little bit about me. So my name is Jazzmine Raine. I am a strategic growth consultant and the founder of Raine and Co., where we specifically help social purpose organizations and visionary leaders scale with clarity, systems, and soul. We do a lot of the marketing piece, a lot of the sales piece, but of course, if we don't have our processes and systems and tools streamlined and trained to support us in scaling up incredible impact, it can feel very challenging. So for more than a decade, I've worked in and alongside nonprofit and social enterprise organizations. I actually co-founded and launched India's first zero-waste hostel and sustainable tourism project. Pre-pandemic, unfortunately, we pivoted very heavily in 2020. Um, but it's been so beautiful because I've been able to work with such incredible projects across the world. And something that I'm finding that has been very, very powerful in building capacity is leveraging AI. But of course, there's so many conversations to be had around it, around ethics and responsibility and accountability and sustainability. And one of the things that is pretty challenging right now is there's not really a clear policy around how do we train and deploy these types of tools across our organization. So that's what I really want to dive into with all of you today. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. So as we're going through, please feel free to drop them in the chat and I'll make sure to address them as we go. Um, yeah, let's get started. I got 10 things for you. There's 100 things, but I'm going to start with 10. Um, so the first one that I think is so important, and I think sometimes kind of shocks leaders, is that AI is already in your organization. So it doesn't have to be this scary thing. At least two-thirds of your staff are likely using AI tools quietly, but they're doing so without any policy or oversight. And these tools can be as simple as Gemini, if you're using a Google platform, potentially it is polishing emails. You could be using OneDrive, you could be using Microsoft Copilot for even just for emails or simple tasks, maybe for smoothing out any like copy that's going out for social content. All of those pieces are AI in action in your organization. And often, if we don't have any kind of policy in place, it can be really scary for staff members to actually acknowledge to leadership that they're using it. So that's where I want to start. Is just AI is already in your organization, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into the next pieces of what that looks like and where we can really stand up as leaders. Number two is AI is not neutral. Um, the tools reflect the priorities of those who build and train them. So that means that impact organizations need to bring their own ethics and values to the table and train their AI tools on them. I could never do any, like nothing that I do is possible with AI if I hadn't already trained it on what our values are as a agency, as an individual, the things that we believe in as a company, and also who were the clients that we're working with, their beliefs, their values, their ethics, and also having these conversations with leaders to really understand like what are the fears, where their ethics lie, where the concerns are in approaching AI. Because if we don't understand that and have honest conversations, AI can feel not only overwhelming, but it actually can produce some scary things. I think we've all seen those memes and gifs about the scary things that AI can do. But again, if we are intentional about how we approach AI tools, we can really make them work for us and the impact that we're trying to make in this world. Number three. So this is like full stop. This actually should just be number one. Like policy comes before prompts. It is very clear, like we're not seeing policy in at any level of government. There is nothing coming out to save us. So without governance, we lose control of what's human-led versus AI supported, and that leads to inconsistent messaging and trust gaps. So it is so important as organizations, as leaders, that we are implementing some kind of policy. I know policy sounds a little scary. It doesn't have to be anything insane to get started with. It's really just understanding what does that process look like. So for example, if you are using ChatGPT to clean up emails, make sure that you're having that honest conversation with your staff and you're asking them, how are you using it? Where is the human-led input? You know, a lot of people in my community have gone into the trend of like, we're audio dumping and, you know, transcribing and then bringing that over to AI to help clean it up so we can save a little bit of time and energy and all the typing madness. And just understanding really like what is the human-led piece and where does I come in to support us, it's going to help build out a policy that makes sense across your organization. That also includes what information you feed it that is sensitive potentially. Maybe you don't want to be giving, you know, donor, you know, private data to AI. That's probably not something that you totally want to do. So how are we working around that to make sure that we can use AI to support us with identifying gaps in our campaigns and you know, finding quick wins with, you know, our highest performing donor audiences when it comes to giving season without giving away, you know, private information to a platform that we're not sure where it goes. And I think that's really important that I address that is like, yes, ChatGPT is not openly sharing this information with the internet or any AI platforms, but once it's in there, it's in there. It's used to train the model. And I don't know if everyone saw that fun little moment with ChatGPT where all chat threads that could be shared to others, like via a shareable link, became publicly available online. So everything that they had been discussing in that thread was then publicly accessible on Google. So that's I'm so glad that happened because it really showcases the trust gap that we need to address within our organizations to ensure that we are meeting our team where we need to be in terms of our ethics and values, and then of course being transparent with our donors, beneficiaries, our partners, our donors, etc. So policy first, please, must have. Um, Number four is training AI intentionally. Oh, I made a spelling error in there. So clearly I could have used AI to produce some better autocorrect here. Training AI intentionally reduces environmental impact. So if you're like me, I'm a huge environmentalist. And of course, that was actually the number one thing that stopped me from getting into the AI space earlier is I was like, what does this mean for our environment? What does this mean in terms of cooling servers and the energy needed to produce the kind of results that are happening like at lightning speed before our eyes? So I just want to make it very clear that every AI query has a cost. Running problems at scales requires enormous amounts of energy and water to cool servers. And it obviously takes, and it might seem small scale when we're a small organization. We're thinking, oh, maybe it's not that bad. But when we're thinking about the back end of what it takes to train and deploy AI, the way that we're seeing it come to life on AI is evolving every second. It's learning every second from millions and billions of people around the world. That is taking so much energy and water to support that growth. So if that's something you've been concerned about, I want to reassure you that when you are training AI intentionally with your mission, with your values, with your data, you're training it as if it is a quote unquote kind of person on your team. Think of it as someone that is an intern when they start, and you're scaling them up to maybe like a more senior collaborative role. We need to ensure that there's a feedback loop, and we're supporting it to really understand more of what we're working towards so that we can cut down on the unnecessary train and error prompts. I'm sure we're all very familiar with telling it to no, try again, no, try again. Let me give you more information, more context. So how do we get ahead of that so that we can reduce the environmental impacts that we have with AI usage? So that's going to help us generate more accurate outputs faster. And actually, that actually leads perfectly to the next prompt. Thank you, Daniel. The next number 5 is garbage in, garbage out. So how do we make sure that we are providing AI the context it needs to produce the results that are actually going to move the needle? Again, this goes back to yes, training, deployment. That's how we get to where we want to be with our AI tools. And of course, it allows us to alleviate the impact that it has on the environment. You can go ahead to the next one. Number 6, I feel like I'm speeding through these. Number 6, AI can give you time back if used intentionally. On average, we find that our clients actually free up 5+ hours per week when they have learned to train and guide their AI tools accurately and in alignment with the type of impact and results they're looking for. And this isn't just simple email drafting or cleaning up social content. This is deep research, deep analysis, and even supporting with like larger campaign and funnel building. And I don't want you to think about it as a replacement of a team member. This is something that this will never replace the human touch that is needed in this journey, especially in the impact world. It is so important that it is human-led and AI supported. So the way that we want to look at AI is as a strategic collaborator, a way for us to be playful with our thoughts. Something that I find really helpful lately is, if you're like me, maybe you get your best ideas also in the shower or while driving or on a stroll or when you're working out, and having a place to kind of dump some of those thoughts when they come up and a place to just store them. Maybe that's like in a transcripting app and then you're moving them over to Chat GPT, just to like have a place to store everything and like use it as like a second brain to just remember the ideas that you've come up, play, iterate, bring new frameworks and models, just test things out. Like, I want you to think of it as this place is like this personal assistant to support you, not with just the day-to-day, but really thinking bigger and how do you really scale up sustainably your impact in the world as an individual and across your organization. You can go ahead to the next one. Voice is everything. And I know Daniel will 110% back me on this. Untrained AI produces very generic content. So I'm sure we are all familiar with feeding, asking ChatGPT to write us up XYZ. regardless of how much context we give it, it'll probably still give you emojis. It'll still probably give you the comparison of like, we're not this, we're this. It's going to give you a lot of M dashes. So when trained with your messaging pillars and getting very clear on not just the do's, but the don'ts of your messaging and and how you want to come across to your various audiences. I think what's actually so important, especially if you're speaking to multiple personas. So if you're speaking to funders and that could be like fund like grantors or private or philanthropists, or and you're also speaking to donors who have multiple personas. You're speaking to baby boomers or millennials or Gen Z. You're also speaking to volunteers. You're speaking to everything. You can, like, having a clear understanding of how you are speaking to all of these personas in a really clear voice and tone, that can be fed to AI in a way that allows you to kind of like not worry about having to always go back to a reference guide and being like, okay, did I hit that note? Did I hit that note? If you train your AI thoroughly and intentionally on your messaging pillars and exactly the do's and don'ts of your brand's voice, it becomes so much easier and so much more exciting and creative to be playful with your messaging, because you're not having to worry about all these nuances, and you can actually be more fluid because that solid foundation is already there. So, Daniel, I know you back me on that. And we talk a lot about that actually going into next month, just because we actually noticed that a big challenge that a lot of nonprofit and social impact organizations were having is they were coming to the workshop. And when we get into the messaging piece, they actually weren't really sure where to start, because everyone kind of has like, their website copy that maybe they've been like iterating on for a few years. They've got a few social posts that they know work and they kind of iterate on those every once in a while. But having like a clear foundation of a messaging like strategy and clear pillars of what your brand's unique voice is how you are able to move forward with making copy not sound like generic AI copy. And I know we all know what it looks like, so I don't even have to go into the details of what AI generic copy looks like and sounds like. Number 8. So AI use means more than avoiding bad output. So using AI ethically is about how you feed it, what you ask it to do, and how you review it. So a few things that might actually shock you. So that means training your tools on your own unique case studies, stories, data, and testimonials. Um, AI is built to serve. It's built to serve, it's built to impress you, it's built to make sure that you have everything you need to be successful. So sometimes that means it will lie. Sometimes that means it will lie for you. It will grab fake stories. We've seen it in action. We were playing with a nonprofit on helping them build out an appeal email, and it grabbed a story out of thin air, and it was a gorgeous email, but it wasn't their story. So it really proved to them, oh, I see where we can continue to beef this up and add more uniqueness to our organization, our unique stories, our testimonials, the words that our donors and beneficiaries are using. Bringing that all into how you train AI is, again, how you take your copy to a next level of output. Obviously, as I mentioned, protecting sensitive data. We actually covered this a lot in the workshop in October, and just going into what does it look like to feed accurate donor data, that with what's actually happening in your donor community and ecosystem, without putting anyone's data, like personal data and information, at risk. Training AI with your organization's values so it reflects your dignity, equity, and truth, and ensuring every AI assistant draft is reviewed through a human mission first lens. So again, going back to that policy, because what we've seen is usually it's like someone is creating AI content. It hasn't been fed all of the goodness about the organization. So that draft just goes up to the senior leader, because usually it's a small team and they're lacking resources and capacity. And that senior leader is already, maybe it's the ED, managing director, they're already overwhelmed. They don't have time to be picking apart AI generated copy. So if we can find ways where it's like we have a clear approval process and we know what kind of pillars those who are producing copy using, while leveraging AI as an assistant, they have that process clear, so that when it gets to the leader, it's not 2 hours of editing something that AI could have done in 5 minutes if it had been given the accurate kind of training before deploying it in the organization. So it really can bring back so much capacity to your team so that you can stay focused on the things that really matter. And honestly, as much as like copy and storytelling and messaging is so important. And there's a huge piece that's needed before you start deploying AI. It saves marketing teams so much time in the end because then they can stay focused on the strategy and the follow up. And that's where we know the money is. You can go
Absolutely.
ahead to the next one, unless you want
Perfect.
to add to it, Daniel.
Just a quick side note there for anyone who joined later on, or anyone who is now here in the chat. We did want to know where are you at with your AI use, and I mentioned I just did a little chat thing there. You could react with an emoji, like a brain or a face that's showing where you think you're at or how you're feeling about it, or you can just reply and tell us. We'd love to know if you're using one or more tools in your organization, if you're just starting out, if you're pretty advanced and you're looking for, other ways, just feel free to tell us. You don't even have to use words, just use a little emoji if you'd like. You can react to that. And of course, just as a reminder, we will get to the questions after we get through the next two tips. So thank you so much.
Yes, just like AI, we love emojis. Quick wins exist. Yes, AI can immediately help with grant research, donor data analysis, donor letter drafts, but only if you set it up right. I want to make sure that this is clear because I know that a lot of nonprofits might not have a super robust CRM system that is keeping or sometimes you have a system, but it's like we have a client who has Salesforce, and Salesforce is such a beast. And you really need to have someone on the team trained to understand how to use that and really grasp data in a way that is you're able to turn it into quick wins. And if you don't have that, or you don't have someone on your team who is leading that kind of CRM training and supporting the organization, training a research-based and analysis-based GPT or project can be really, really helpful for finding those quick wins, especially as we go into the holiday giving season. I want to read some of these things because I'm always excited to know. So using a lot of AI for words, newsletters, cleaning up things. Yep, love it. Mostly for policy creation or operational structures. Fantastic. Using lots of chat bots. Oh, great. Fantastic. Love to hear that. Using it to convert. Oh, hey, Michelle. Using it to convert from my voice to the brand voice for newsletters. Yeah, love, love, love. Generating ideas. With the use of AI, I can use it for communication, checking grammar, challenging my data analysis. I needs to improve it. Fantastic. I love this. Awesome. All right, number 10. Using mostly ChatGPT for everything. Yes. Hold on one second. All right, number 10. The future belongs to those who self-govern. So again, no global regulation is coming soon. It was actually probably the biggest topic at the Fundraising AI conference last week is that we have to be responsible for our own governance. Social purpose organizations have to lead with their own policies, practices, and intentional use of AI, full stop. So if you haven't done that already, that's okay. There is no time like the present. Make that a priority in your organization before you start moving forward with anything. And that starts with just a simple organizational policy, having the conversations open with trust and accountability with your team. Because the only way to move things forward is to have your entire team on board. And if you are a nonprofit with a board of directors, yes, that conversation also needs to be brought to the board. And honestly, I feel like once they understand what is capable, once the team starts to invest and train and start to position AI as this capacity building opportunity and less about, a new form of tech, boards, funders, et cetera, will see the opportunity here. I will note that just because it's of interest, I'm not sure if there was a question specifically about this, but something that did come up was I was speaking to somebody about the Ontario Trillium Foundation specifically. And there was a mention about how they are, this is like why the AI governance and like why we have to come together as leaders in the social impact space to kind of advocate for each other and how AI can be used ethically, because it was noted to them around a grant that they were specifically looking for things that look like they were ChatGPT generated, which I think is so unfair for small teams. And I can't say that enough, because when you are a one-person team, and I know a lot of one-person teams. I know there's one here. There's a one-person team. When you have so much on your plate, and you can use AI to help buy back so much of your time and energy, it feels really unfair to penalize someone because they're using M dashes when that's not even, M dashes have been used for many, many centuries in copywriting. So that's a silly, silly thing to say. But M dashes were used far before ChatGPT, and it feels very unfair to dock people just because we're seeing, you know, things here and there that might indicate that it's AI generated. So I think this is a really important moment to come together and advocate as small organizations, show how we can build capacity for our small teams to further our impact work, because it shouldn't be about spending 15 hours writing a grant application. It should be spending those 15 hours on the ground with our beneficiaries, making sure that we are able to scale the work that we're doing in the world and buy back the time in the copywriting of putting together a 16-page grant. So I think that this is where we can all, as leaders, really come together and start having these conversations in our organizations, in our communities, and really also be open to sharing and collaborating. Like I said at the beginning, no one is an AI expert and no one ever will be an AI expert. It is AI's brain doubles, I think it's like every couple hours. I can't remember the stat, because we are feeding it so much every second that it can learn from. So it's really important that we support each other and share what's working, what's not working, and move forward together, because we are all here for a very similar. We're actually all here for the same thing. We want to make the world a better place. So if we're able to support each other in doing that, we can start here while understanding how to govern ourselves.
Love that. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who kind of chimed in and shared. Um, we have a few takeaways and next steps, but then we will jump into the Q&A. If you wanted to dive into this part, Jazz.
Yes, like I said, my favorite line, no one is coming to save us in any way or form, to be honest. There's no top-down regulation, and as leaders in the impact space, you set the tone for ethical, transparent, and value-driven AI use in your organization. So the best way to get ahead is to access the training and support needed to lead your team forward. And that starts with something incredible that Daniel and I have been iterating on. So yeah, just last month. I'm in a different country now, but it's hard to believe that that was just last month. We actually led two groups of nonprofit and social impact leaders in Toronto and Mississauga in Ontario, through a two-part kind of workshop. So the first part is really getting clear on one, talking about the policy piece. Yes. Well, actually, I should talk about what it looks like now because we've iterated. Getting clear on the messaging piece, because again, what we saw last month is that a lot of organizations were like getting a little bit more of the hang of how AI could buy back a lot of time and energy in their organization. But when it came to feeding it the brand voice and tone of their organization, there was a lot of question marks. There was a lot of uncertainty. There's lacked a lot of clarity. And Daniel is a superstar, like super expert at this, and was able to make it so accessible to make to really get clear on those messaging pillars in like one session. And ideally, what we're doing in the two-part session is we're getting clear on kind of like a messaging cheat sheet, almost where we have everything we need to feed to our AI. And then in the workshop with me, we're actually going to train our AI to for deployment in our organization. So that's good. And we're going to specifically be looking at things like appeal letters, building out grant and fundraising GPTs, so custom GPTs. I'm using ChatGPT language because I'm a ChatGPT lover. But again, regardless of what platform that you're using, we can play with what that looks like. And also sometimes it's great to have people using different softwares because we can kind of see how the results may vary. But we'll be working with how to build custom AI tools that can support with everything from research to donor and data analysis to writing appeal letters, supporting us with campaign management, social media copy. And these are prompts and processes that I use with my clients every day. So these things are already creating incredible results. They're buying back so much capacity for these small teams. And this workshop is honestly an insane price. I actually have to pull it up because I forgot off the top of my head. um, it's 129 for our early bird pricing. So I highly recommend taking a click on that, joining us in October. especially if you're feeling behind on the holiday giving season, because we can seriously help you get ahead in the next couple of weeks so that you feel a lot more confident and know how to, and feel actually confident in starting to maybe I wouldn't say like fully deploy AI. I wouldn't recommend that you like just train AI once and then you're like, we're good. Let's throw this out there. And I recommend trialing, making sure that your human-led process is implemented as you're training it with your team. And then when you're ready and it's producing results, you've tested them out in the market, quote unquote, then you can start actually deploying across your organization and making it more of a streamlined process where everyone knows which tools or which custom GPTs or projects are made specifically for XYZ outputs. I'm a big fan of creating custom GPTs per task or per project or per campaign even, so that you're getting highly, like targeted specific results based on what you need. Yes, you can train it on absolutely everything, and you can have one GPT that creates your social copy and your emails and your social strategy every month. But I actually find it's the most helpful when it's trained for specific things across the organization. And again, it's really important that you decide in your organization who's responsible for training these. What kind of data does it get fed? How do we know what's getting the most up-to-date data? How often are you auditing it? You can't just look at AI as this one and done thing. It is a time investment that supports you with long-term scalability. So like I said, think about it as your intern that you're scaling up to like a senior collaborator in a sense, but that can be done in a quarter of the time that it takes to get there, and also at a fraction of the budget that it takes to hire someone to come on to be your AI expert, or to have multiple people across your marketing department when maybe you hardly have the budget to maintain what's happening currently in terms of your HR. So this is really where to get started, and would love, love, love to support all of you in this, because I'm really so passionate about it. And I've seen firsthand how it supports so many incredible small teams, just amplify impact tenfold.
Thank you so much, Jazz. And Heidi, to answer your question, they are both online. We're also doing hybrid for session one so that we can be a little bit more hands-on for those people who are in the Toronto area. However, it'll be fully available hybrid. More so for when we are working, like when we're workshopping activities, it's a little bit easier to kind of come around and spend some time with people. But it is available fully online. And the first session of that will be primarily led by myself, and the second session, part two, will primarily be led by Jazzmine, just based on our individual expertise on the curriculum. We found that doing it in one session was helpful, but kind of can just scratch the surface, so we broke it out into two sessions. Amazing. Well, all that being said, there are quite a few questions that have been submitted. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to stop sharing, and I will ask the questions that have been previously submitted. But if anyone has any new questions to add, feel free to do so, and we will monitor them in the chat. Heidi, to answer your question, that's fine. Yeah, if you're not in Toronto area or you can't make it in person, for any reason, then you'll still get the full value. Absolutely. And I don't know if you heard Jazzmine mention this time, but we have like a full comprehensive toolkit that you can take away as well. So even that access to that is kind of really helpful, even if you're not able to attend. Okay, so the first question that's on our list here that was submitted is, where can social purpose organizations find AI consultants, and how do we convince funders to fund AI migration in their budgets? So I guess when you're applying
Yes.
for grants and funding.
Yeah. So for first question, AI consultants, I think that there are quite a few people now niching into AI consulting. But I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I'm right here. But there are lots of people. I actually recommend, like, if you are looking for something very specific, a lot of LinkedIn leaders in the AI space are very clear about the niche that they're the niche, however you might say it, what niche they're working in. I also, again, I always highly recommend fundraising.ai is a great community network to be a part of. I think that they're really leading a really great conversation there. And in terms of convincing funders to fund AI migration, so I would highly recommend framing it as a capacity building piece. Like it is there, like show how you are saving money across the team by supporting everyone with AI training and adoption. And how we can, because I think that the biggest challenge here is within the social impact space is that everyone is always wearing 10 hats. And I say that from experience. We're always wearing 10 hats. We're always small teams. We're always understaffed. We're over capacity in terms of the workload that we have ahead of us. And I think really being able to frame out like what is and isn't possible in a 30 to 40 day work week and the kind of goals that you're working towards, showcasing AI as a support for capacity building at a fraction of the cost of what it would be to bring on, XYZ team members. And, I know that that's also, I feel like a lot of people are feeling challenged by that conversation because they're like, well, I don't want to take a job away. And I think that is so, so fair. And I want to make it clear that AI can't replace a job, but it is going to replace a lot of the time and energy put into things like outlines and but even building like all of the board resources, helping with website development, everything. I could say that as if it's like taking jobs away, but it really is there to be a collaborative supporting tool. It can't be a human on your team. It's always going to be a support tool. So especially if you're like a team of people under 10, I think you have more case than anyone because you can showcase very clearly how the impact that you're trying to make can be supported with AI tools. I'm seeing that right now with a team of 4 that I'm working with, how much it's built their capacity out that they've already seen, I think just last week they saw with the support of AI for copy and going through kind of the process that Daniel and I are taking clients through. I was like so excited the win that they just got. They just had a donor increase their monthly donation by like 1,100% because they connected so deeply with the founder-led content that the founder has now been able to have the capacity to finally put out there. And Daniel, I know that you love founder-led content. You're like the man for it. And this is like such a perfect example of how just having a little bit more capacity and being able to share as a leader your perspective with your network and have people who have been following you for years and didn't get a chance to really dive deeper into the unique storytelling and what's happening on the ground. Those are the kind of opportunities that are possible when you're buying back that capacity. So I'm sure I could give you, I'm like, if you're struggling to get your funders to support you with AI migration, I'll give you like 12 case studies to support you in submitting. I got you.
Awesome. All right. So the next question we had is there an AI platform that is recommended for some of the top 10 uses that you went through? And are there any AI tools outside of ChatGPT that you can recommend?
Yes. So for grant research, I would also say Perplexity could be helpful for donor analysis. Claude, Claude, Chat. Again, I'm always going to say Chat, but yes, Claude. For storytelling, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Jasper. It is specifically for the marketing world. If you're looking for like scheduling and workload, I'm a huge Notion fan. Notion is such an incredible investment. Um, uh, and then I think those are like my top ones. Google Gemini is getting really, really good. If you're looking to, especially if you're in like a big research phase, like specifically, let's say you're like launching a new program and you're trying to kind of grasp all the things that you need to really set a case for support or you're putting together a new funding proposal. Google LM is fantastic. Google LM is basically a platform that you basically feed it a bunch of different research um, um, like URLs. So it can be um, books, it can be presentations, it can be reports, it can be podcasts, and it will actually generate. Oh, thank you. Is that you putting that in there, Daniel? Thank you. It'll actually generate for you like it'll bring all the information, like condense it to make it more succinct. It'll help you build out more custom like case studies and cases. It'll actually, if you're also just trying to learn on your own as a leader to kind of get a sense of like if you should move forward with a decision or not, it'll compile all that information and turn it into a custom podcast for you. So you can like listen to all that data instead of spending hours and hours reading. Because I know we all love to build a long, long report, but none of us love to read one. So Google LM can be a really helpful tool for condensing really complex and lengthy information and reporting research into very accessible tools, especially if you have neurodivergent individuals on your team. Google LM is so, so fantastic to support all of the kind of accessibility needs across your staff.
Awesome. And of course, there's a lot more niche, one-off tools as well, and
Yes,
different tools that
so
can
many.
specifically help with finance and with content creation and all of these. But these are some general platforms for sure. And Notion is a great example of one that can help from an overall, operational perspective as well. Leslie had said if there was an AI tool for grant research, I think you can do it in any of these platforms that you mentioned. Not any of them, but I don't know of a specific AI grant platform. A lot of the tools are trying to sell you access and membership so that they can use their tools to help you get grants, right? But
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot of different donor portals and tools that are customized for the nonprofit space. One of the ones that I've partnered with is DonorBox. So they're actually going to be sponsoring um, our meetup coming up in October and our
Woohoo.
conference. And they're really cool. They actually have built in with DonorBox. They actually have like a fundraise. They created their own AI tool called JAI, which helps you with some data and insights and strategy as well. So I'll also put a link to that in the chat as well.
Um,
Awesome. Okay, next question that we have, I'm gonna grab that. I'll grab that for you. But the next question we have are when you are designing impact studies specifically, what are some tips to get the best use out of AI in this use case? I'm
Impact
assuming,
studies.
yeah, I'm assuming that means like like before the project happens versus like a report, like an impact report.
Maybe I don't quite understand the question. So using impact, to
It says,
pull
what are
impact
tips to get
reports.
the best use of AI while designing impact studies?
Um,
But if we need
okay.
more, yeah, if we need more info, there's plenty of other questions we can jump to as
Well,
well.
I'm thinking that, I mean, how that's kind of translating for me is like an impact report, as in like a case study potentially, or sharing storytelling pieces. Um,
Yep, to showcase
I
results. That's a
think,
common one that I work on as well. I think from that, if we look at it from that perspective, there's plenty of examples of there um, where we can go into talking about taking tons of data and feedback that you've received and testimonials and kind of finding ways to better display that and digest that in really exciting ways that can be more compelling. Um, Anything else, Jazz, you want to add?
well, I mean, just I guess maybe just following on that note, I think that's also the best way that you can create like authentic content is feeding it the impact that you've been able to make. So feeding it the stories, feeding it not just the numbers, like this is quantitative and qualitative data that we need to be sharing. And having it help kind of frame out stories based on, again, if you're feeding it that and your messaging pillars, for example, you're going to be able to create impact reports per se from that kind of base knowledge that you provided. Which again can lead to when you go to produce some kind of like annual impact report, you can build a lot of that framework and that outline in a platform like ChatGPT, especially if you're leveraging like, let's say you want to feed it last year's template that you used and then work with it to provide it the new stories, the new data, and have it actually frame all of that out so that you have almost like that canvas ready to go that you can then start playing with. Because I know that the biggest thing that we all spend time with is just organizing information. So have have AI support you with that piece so that you can focus more on the storytelling and showcasing where the true impact is in your organization.
Great. One of the other questions that we have is about how can I use AI to help manage my workload and prioritize tasks? And I have a feeling you're going to refer to Notion, but go ahead, Jess.
Yes, absolutely. Notion, I'm a big fan, like I said. And what you can also do is what I'll give you my personal process because I find it very helpful and my team loves it as well. Is I actually transcribe, like I do voice to text, because sometimes there's so much, especially when we're wearing 17 hats. I know you, I know where you're at. Um, Feeding it kind of like everything that's going on, sharing deadlines for things, sharing your schedule, and like getting that all out, and then having AI support you with like planning out kind of like a work block, work blocks throughout the week of like how to take, you know, where to schedule everything in to your week ahead. And Notion actually supports you with that with Notion AI. Trello is also a great one. I'm not as familiar with any of their AI pieces because I'm such a Notion fan. So I feel like I'm like tooting the Notion horn over here. But that's where I would start. Use AI to draft to-do lists, project plans, priority frameworks, and then have it sorted out for you based on your deadlines. And you know what's great actually? Sorry, just a helpful process as well that I use is again ChatGPT and Notion besties. What I'll do is I'll actually when I have something that I want to like work through in terms of like maybe it's like a priority list or a to-do list, or I want to, for example, I recently needed to craft something a little bit unique for metric tracking for a client. And what I did is I just like I did a verbal kind of download of like, here's what I need it to look like. Here's how I need it to function. Here's how it's going to work per team member. So again, it's not like AI is leading the process. I'm telling it like, this is what I know is going to work, but I don't know how to organize it in a way that makes sense and is accessible to the diverse needs of the team. And I told ChatGPT that we're going to take it and we're going to bring it over to Notion. So once I was happy with the way that it had outlined everything, it actually coded it for me so that I could just copy the code and bring it over to Notion and paste, and it already organized it for me using Notion AI and ChatGPT. So that's how you can buy back a lot of time. Sure, maybe it still takes half an hour to get that all out, but it saved me 5 hours of having to manually go back and forth and think about all the ways I want to organize information. Because again, not every process and system works for every client that I work with. So I like to make sure that we're hitting things in a way that's unique to the needs of the organization, the needs of the team members, and also like what metrics are the most important for us to track based on the outcomes that we're trying to accomplish over Q4. That's just an overview of the process that's worked really, really well for me.
Example. Thank you so much. All right. When it comes to um, how to use AI on an ethical way specifically, are there any kind of additional points or considerations that people can look into?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I think I covered a lot about this just in their initial, but just to recap, like again, making sure that you are getting clear as an organization, what tools you're using, what tools you're not, getting clear on what the process looks like in terms of who is using it and for what purposes. So getting clear on exactly what is like, maybe there's certain things where you're like, no, we do not want AI to touch this process or this task at all. So getting really clear on that because if the conversations aren't had, trust is lost in the organization. Like I said at the beginning, two-thirds of your team is already using AI and they're probably just not talking about it. Or they're not disclosing all the things, all the ways that they're using it. Trust me, I've seen people share with me, like, I just delete the M dashes and nobody knows, like there are those conversations happening. So let's make sure that we're nipping that in the bud and really supporting our team to have these open, trusting conversations. Um, oh, sorry, I just lost my train of thought because in terms of ethics, thank you. Thank you, Jazzmine. Um, Other ways that we want to look at this is again making sure that whenever we are using AI for anything that like so whether it is to brainstorm an idea, to create copy, to ideate and brainstorm on a campaign or strategy, make sure that you are telling it all the things it needs to know about you. And this is where we're going to be creating these kind of resources in the workshop next month. Like, what are your do's and your don'ts? What do you want? What can it touch? What can it not touch? What can it talk about? What can it not talk about? What are ways that it can be respectful to your audience? We were working with an organization that specifically works with Indigenous youth. We need to make sure that that language is critical. So we want to make sure that the GPT is being respectful to all of the ways that they are communicating with their audience. They're making sure that it's educational in a respectful and ethical way. All of these pieces need to be fed to your AI before you start with any kind of outputs. Um, and again, of course, if it's something like um, uh, the sustainability aspect. Something that my team started doing is we started tracking our AI usage and the outputs for, in terms of like water usage, energy usage, and really getting clear on like, okay, well, why were certain things taking up, so much water or so much energy? How can we look at, like iterating on that process to make it a little bit more, lighter on the environment, for example. So there's a few pieces to that. And I'll actually, one thing I will drop that I think is really helpful. This is just a template that I've been sharing. It's an AI policy template. I really need to create my own, actually. We were just deploying our own AI policy across our organization. We're just updating it so that we can start really sharing with our clients, like, here is how we built it. Please go and do it. Because every time we start to have the conversation, everyone's like, we'll do it later. We'll do it later. It's just policy. But the way that AI is evolving, I need to make it very clear that uh, every day we're seeing updates, changes. It's evolving every single second. So we need to make sure that we're getting clear on what this all looks like across our organizations.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that template. If there's any questions, by the way, from those of you who are live on the call, feel free to ask in the chat, and we will definitely get to them. I have a couple more questions that were submitted here. I know a ton of them were answered already, Jazz, throughout your session. But one of the questions was, how do you build a plan to adopt AI within a small organization? Not all at once, but are there any kind of steps that you would follow?
Um, Again, I think it's, well, I guess maybe without repeating myself too much, I think it's really important to sit down as a team, have the conversations as I'm mentioning, but also take a look at like, here's our job descriptions. Here's the things that we're doing every day. First of all, do they match? Because sometimes after a year or a few years in an organization, our role spirals and we take on 400 things that we probably shouldn't have taken on. So how do we look at our job roles and the things that we love to do, the things that we're great at, the things that we've taken on because we felt like we needed to, et cetera. Really looking at it and saying, okay, what can we offload to AI? And what would that look like to offload it? How much time and energy would it take us to train something on this? And honestly, this is actually where AI consulting can be really supportive because sometimes it is so challenging to be in it every day and then look at your cards on the table and be like, oh yeah, these are the things. So sometimes having that third party perspective can be really helpful to support you in identifying where there's opportunity to offload. I think that another important thing to look at is what are the things that you know you should be doing that are not getting done? And then and you can work backwards from there. I see a lot of leaders, they don't like to be called out about it, but I'm going to call you in softly. A lot of leaders who are doing things, day-to-day operational things that really should not be on your to-do list. Really getting like clear, and I know it's hard to let go sometimes, but for the sake of your own mental health and the sustainability of you as a person and your organization and the impact you're trying to make, just getting really honest with yourself about what are the things that are really draining you, what are the things that are lighting you up, and where can there be an opportunity to offload and streamline with AI usage. And then you can start to get clear on what platforms make sense. Maybe you have certain bias against certain organizations. Maybe you don't like what so and so is investing in versus so and so. I know that there's a lot of meta haters out there. So making sure that it's clear in terms of your organization of what kind of platforms you want to support and literally as like investing in is also a topic of conversation.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jazz. Like I said, a lot of the questions were around, recommending specific tools and platforms. I think we've covered quite a few of those. If any of the ones that were mentioned, we will put in the recap. And of course, if you're interested in attending our session coming up, then you will absolutely be able to get our whole resource guide where you can kind of get a playbook for everything that you need, a little hub of resources. Thank you, Jazz, for being here today and sharing all those awesome resources. We appreciate everyone for tuning in and for sticking around, as always. And we will send out a little recap link and links to the sessions if you're interested in joining us again. Jazzmine will also be back, however, this Friday morning. We're doing a little bit of a Q&A on fundraising for specifically leading up to the holiday campaign. So I think that one's going to be really interesting because right now is the time where so many organizations we're hearing a lot of questions about holiday giving campaigns starting from right now. And we know that, like some stats say more than a third of the all giving for the year happens in December, and sometimes the last couple days of the month is like a massive percentage there. But also there's Giving Tuesday coming up, and so we want to really offer this kind of another free Q&A session. So I will also share the link to that. But that's happening on Friday morning. So depending what time zone you're in, it's 10:30 a.m. Eastern, as opposed to today's. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and we will see you around. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thanks,
lovely
Jazz.
day. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Daniel. I'll see you Friday.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.